Assembly instructions for this guy. It's a 3-part display. Here's the exploded assembly view of it. You'll notice item number 2 here is a weldment. It's the same as it's not the same as number 3. Number 3 is a weldment, and you'll notice that there isn't an extruded channel on the outside of here, but it is on the inside, and that's what we're going to use to connect everything together. You'll notice that they're pitched out. You'll notice that these have a rail or an angle to them. Make sure that the angle is facing out towards you. Here's how those get assembled. Again, just get them loosely put them in there, and then when you get them down into the extrusion, you can tighten everything up. And here's how all of that goes together. This crossbar needs to match the 2 crossbars right and left of it, isn't it? The same as the top. Here's Phil doing his work. You're going to insert these graphic holders into place. So what you don't want to do is get this bottom rail in and then put the top rail in and then realize you have to put the crossbars in, because then you have to tear the top rail off. So work from the bottom to the top, do the rail and then the graphic holders, and then do the top rail, and life will be good. We've given you some examples of 6 inches from here and then 36 inches from there. Assembling the top crossbars. Now these have angles to them, but so you just make sure that your angle is, when you're putting the extrusion in, that it's parallel to the angle that we cut into that rail. Here we're noting that you need to assemble the top swivel and the bottom swivel. We've already done that for you in the factory. This is a rotating window display. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but that whole thing is already assembled out of the box for you. You have to install the window, but for the most part, that thing is done right out of the box. Make sure everything's level. And then we get to this rotating window display. You're going to find window number 16 to mount into this. So we did a really nice frame on this, and then Menard said that our frame was too nice. It needs to look more like 2x4s, so we had to create another frame. And the really nice frame is the one that you're going to find in the fixture when you unpack it. We have another carton that holds this one that's made of 2x4s. JELD-WEN likes the nicer one, so we're just going to let the JELD-WEN rep make a decision on what to use, whether they want the nice one or the not so nice one. But once you have that in place, you want to pull it out of the fixture. It's just a lift and drop thing. There's a little plastic indexer mounted to the the bottom of the 2x4 or the wood structure. So you want to get the window installed. And the way that we do that is we pull it out. There's a hole here that's offset in that. You lay it on the ground so that the hole is closer to the floor. And then there are nail fins on the bottom, I'm sorry, on the back of the window. Make sure that you center the window, and then we provided some nails. We're not using screws for this one. There's nails in there, and just go along the outside. I believe we're using 3 on the sides and 2 on the top to nail that in place. Okay, and then number 17 is the tilt window fixture. It looks harder than it is, but we've given you some guidance on how to do that. So when you pull the right-hand side of the fixture out of the box, it's going to have this wood frame already inside of it. We found in some stores that the wood frame is assembled backwards. So the hinge, what you need to note, the hinge on this needs to be towards the front of you so that that window can operate properly. If it's not, there are 2 screws on each side. Remove the 2 screws from each side, and that allows you to pull that whole frame out. Just rotate it, put it back in, make sure that your edges are flush with our aluminum frame, and then screw it back in place. They're self-tapping screws. It takes about a minute and a half to do all of that. But once you have that in place, then we have to attach these hinge assemblies, and we'll get into a little bit on how to do that here. We're showing you the assembly of all of that. You want to take some measurements while the window is on the floor, because you can see that this sliding hinge here needs to be located at a specific spot on the window. So we're asking you to measure down from the top of the window 13 3/4 inches, make a mark, and then in from the front of the window, it's in an inch. So make a mark there. And then that's where you're going to use that to mount. You're going to put the screw for that right on those two marks. There is a pull here handle on the left and right of the window. We're using double-faced tape and screws to hold that into place. And the double-faced tape is there because there's not a whole lot inside the vinyl window for the screw to grab onto, so we're just securing it with tape, thin tape on the inside of this, and we're showing you to mark that down 16 inches from the top, and then anywhere from an inch out. So from the face, it's going to stick out an inch to an inch and a quarter, somewhere in there. Get those marked, apply the tape, apply the handle, and then screw it into place. We're showing you how to do some of that. So step number one is mounting the window. It's a piano hinge. So this is kind of a two-person deal. One person is going to hold the window in place while the other person from the back lines up the piano hinge with the window. There are 3 screws that we've provided to do that. Use those screws to mount the hinge to the window, and then you have an attachment there. Now we're going to attach this slider piece. In the framework that we provided, there's already a pilot hole for this, so you don't have to do any measuring. But what we're showing you here in 2 is kind of the assembly of that screw. We have a spacer here that's going to glide inside of that groove, and then we have a washer that's going to keep everything together. I mount that first when we do that, and then we mount it to the window. Use the pilot hole, and then there is a spring-loaded ball latch in the top of this. You can't really see it, but we need something to grab a hold of. It was a little bit too far from the window, so we created this acrylic piece here. I've been putting a piece of thin tape on the bottom and a thin tape on the top to hold everything together along with the screws, but we're showing you a couple of dimensions on where that is all located. You can dimension this out if you'd like, or just kind of eyeball it and get it into place. But the key is that this indentation locks in with that ball latch. You can do it however you want to just make sure that it's in place and secured down properly. Mounting the pull here handles as shown, and then you have that assembly done. Make sure when you're doing all this that the window hardware again is facing the customer. We don't want it towards the back. That would be kind of useless. So we're showing it how that's done. Any questions on that portion of it before I move on? Okay. Then we're applying this trim piece here, and I'm about to tell Phil that he's right, which he loves. You'll notice that we put the tape along this rail here and along this rail right here, and then it gets mounted to the window. I was mounting it to this wood portion here, and the correct way to do it is you're actually mounting it to the window. And then there's the stickers that go on that. We're showing you how all of that is done. Don't forget to do this. We've come across a couple of stores where this wasn't done, but just apply your tape to that and then get it kind of in the angle that you want it, apply it to the window, and life is good. One thing that I need you to note is that there is like this sill plate up here. It's loose. We've been asking the installers to tape that down just so it stays in place. So it's just an extruded piece of vinyl that attaches to the top of the window. We want that to be taped in place. We're showing you an acceptable joint. Remember to do your dry run first. And then we have a little tip of a video. So that's that. Here's the complete assembly, and we're showing you where to put the graphics. And that. And we're showing you labeling and where that goes. We found on more than an acceptable amount of stores that people weren't locating these clear labels and they were throwing them away, which means we have to reprint them and send them out to the store or go back to the store, which is not what we want. So just be careful as you're unpacking that you're not throwing graphics away. And that's that one, the 3 window. Nobody caught the mistake that we had in the video. I'm surprised. But the video showed when we were assembling the 4 wall section, we were assembling it towards the back of the store when it actually goes to the front of the store. So 3 stores now have been that way, which means that if it's done wrong, somebody has to go back and make it right. So let's make sure that we have the 4 window display towards the front of the store right out of the gate.